Ryan, you've obviously used QB sneaks since you've been here. Not that often, but you've used them. I'm just curious to get your philosophy there. It's not obviously not a sure thing. You guys stopped Notre Dame when they tried to do a quarterback sneak. Just kind of what's your philosophy on QB sneaks in general, and why maybe don't you use them that often?
Yeah, I think when you line up under center, that's probably the first thing in a short yardage situation that everyone's going to take away, and then you go from there. So it's part of our short yardage package. Whether it's appropriate to use or not. We try to do that on a day-to-day basis or a game-to-game basis. But I look at what the Philadelphia Eagles did with Hurts. He's a very big, strong, powerful player. I think with Justin Fields, we did it a lot. He really move the pile. We've practiced it. Everyone has a quarterback sneak in, and if we think it gives us a chance, we'll do it. But as you can imagine, we're really working hard on short yardage.
Would you consider Kyle pretty stout, 6'3", 215? Like, is he pretty good in that?
Yeah. We haven't really given him many opportunities in practice. It's hard to tell. So, time will tell.
Second row right, Bill Landis, Rivals, the podcast.
Right. Is there a percentage in your mind that you want to be successful in short yardage, like 3rd and 3 and fewer, 4th and 3 and fewer, and I guess like how far off that are you guys at the moment?
Yeah, we want to be 100%, but 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, we got to at least be north of 80. 3rd and 3, it comes back a little bit, but yeah, we want to win every short yardage situation, and we work hard to get into those situations, and we got to at least be over 80. I forget exactly where we're at right now, but we need to be better.
I'm assuming you spend a decent amount of time on that in the week off. Not that I guess you'd share this, but what are there areas of emphasis that you're looking at, or would you be willing to talk about a little bit this week?
No, I just think in general, anytime you're in those situations, you always look up matchups. There's always going to be extra people down towards the ball, and you got to win your one-on-one matchups, whether you're on defense or offense. And you look at angles, you look at all those types of things to try to give your guys an advantage. And sometimes you just got to get bigger than the other guy, get stronger than the other guy, move them. If the guys up front are moving their guys forward and the running backs are running hard, that's part of it. Other times you got to look at maybe getting the ball in the perimeter or throwing it down the field when they're just you're banging your head against the wall. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but yeah, in big games, a lot of it comes down to short yardage.
Tony Gergen, Buckeye Huddle.
Along those lines, what I think you guys are like just under 50% on running on 3rd and 4th down. Can you throw your way out of that and then open things up on the ground? Is that something you can also do? Is that something you've done?
Yeah. We have in the past, and we'll try to do whatever we can to get the first down. We're going to try to do what we can schematically to get it done. But yeah, that's always a possibility.
How frustrating has that been so far this season?
Yeah, it's been frustrating. Certainly look back on the film and see the way we moved the ball up and down the field, but not finish those drives was extremely frustrating.
Right next door, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, Kyle obviously has this big moment helping you not only that drive at the end, but the entire Notre Dame game. Coming out of that, how have you seen him react to that, and where do you want to see him grow after his first kind of big college moment?
Yeah, there was a lot of good things in the game, certainly finishing the way it happened, but now it's on to Maryland, bigger challenges ahead. We got a lot of football ahead, and he's got to grow. He's got to get better in a lot of different areas, just like everybody else. But good to get that experience. But yeah, we all need to be more efficient. We need to finish drives off better, and there's a lot of plays that he wish he had back the other night. But now we're moving forward. We're after the bye week. We've addressed all those things, and now all the focus is on Maryland.
Does his trajectory feel similar to Justin and CJ? I feel like sometimes we think about the end product. Maybe we don't look back at it kind of how. I'm sure you do. How is he compared?
It's only a couple games. I don't think we can, leap to judgments. If we don't have that drive at the end of the game, where does that put him? But we did. So now where does that put him? You can't ride the roller coaster of that, good or bad. It is what it is. There's things that we got to get better at. There's things we're getting better each week at. But you can't. It's more of the process. And I think with a quarterback, you have to do that because you can get caught up in everything else. There's a lot of things that come with each play. There's 21 other guys on the field that are affecting where the decisions are in terms of where the ball is being thrown, all kinds of different variables. And the other thing is we only had 8 possessions in that game, so there wasn't as many opportunities as maybe you would like to do that. So we got to be better as a whole on offense of finishing drives off so that we can have more possessions and be more efficient.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Followed up with some more of the Kyle stuff. There's winning the job, which he's done now. There's that, and then there's almost that next step of maybe leaving your imprint on the program or whatnot. Whether it was you going through it yourself, CJ, Justin, Dwayne. When do you see that next step start to happen for quarterbacks, where it's not just, okay, I won the job, now what's next? What's the next step?
Well, yeah, I think any successful person would tell you that it's not an accomplishment to get a job. That's just an opportunity. What you do with it is what matters. And that's, I think, with anybody across the board. And so, it's an opportunity. And, he's had a couple games as a starter, and that's good. But this is just an opportunity. And so the rest is yet to be written. And I know he's working really hard to play his best football in our Week 5.
It seems like there's stuff CJ used to say that still people say here, even though he's gone. It's clear his imprint was left. Are you starting to see that from Kyle a little bit, even though it's early on in the process, him leaving his imprint on this is now his program?
Yeah, I think now that you're into a quarter of the season out of the way, you're starting to see a little bit of a different personality take place, and each team has its own personality. But this team does have more experience than maybe in the teams in the past, so that's good. But the leadership's really got to show now. We got to continue to take these steps forward, and like you said, build our own personality of who we are and our identity, which I feel like we've really started to forge here. But we got a lot of football ahead of us.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, it seemed like last year you guys were, on a good roll going into the bye week, and then maybe had some struggles coming out of a bye week. Did you guys do anything different during the bye week this year to try to, avoid any complacency?
No, I mean, we look at all those types of things, and there's certainly no complacency here. And we know that, we got to continue to get better. We did, give the guys a little bit of time to clear their minds and their bodies and their souls because, it's going to be a heck of a run here for the next couple months. But I think it's more about this week. We did tweak a little bit how we're practicing this week than maybe how we did the middle of last season, coming off the bye week. We did it before the Georgia game. We did it before Week 1, kind of how we practiced this week with the Monday practice and helmets, and then we're going with our normal Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday practice, which in the past we'd changed up for a few years. We thought that gave us a little bit of an edge. So we need to have a great Tuesday practice today.
Are you expecting Marvin to be full go this week?
Yeah.
Austin Ward, Rivals, podcast.
Ryan, only Kyle can say, I guess, if he feels more confidence or
Right.
energy coming out of that. But for you as the head coach and calling plays, what does seeing your quarterback do that really for the first time at that high level, or even some of the plays that you called on that drive, when you were thinking about that during the off week, does it change the way you progress with him or the way that you think about him?
Yeah, it's like I was told as a young quarterback, once you come home with an A in algebra, you're expected to get an A in algebra all the time. Well, now you're seeing what Kyle can do. And so that's now the expectations are getting mounted up, and that's good. That means, you've shown you can do it. Okay, now let's continue to do that, and let's improve in these other areas. But it does give confidence, I think, not only to myself and the coaching staff, but also the guys around him.
You kind of mentioned this after the game, like, well, the third and fourth down success is significant, and that counts for something. Is there something with the concepts and the schemes that fit him better that you're calling at those? Can you adjust that and put him in earlier downs? Like, I know I'm not trying to get the full game plan for Saturday, but it seems like there's a process that goes on for you to see how it fits.
Yeah, and I think that's the journey we talk about every year of finding the right balance of things that fit the quarterback and then the offensive line, and then it goes from there. And Kyle's different than CJ. CJ's different than Justin, and different than Dwayne and JT. So we'll try to identify those things. In each game, you'll learn more. Okay, for some reason, he saw this really well. Now, maybe that was the preparation. Maybe it was the teaching. Maybe it was the scheme. Maybe he saw that look in practice, and we were able to replicate it, in the game. Maybe this was a different look. Maybe he's more comfortable with these concepts. You check the footwork. There's so many different things that come into it. And yeah, we want to make sure we're doing the best we can put our guys in the situation to be successful, and that starts with the quarterback.
Over here, Don Taveri, WBNS.
Coach, how big of a challenge will this be for your defense with Tagovailoa, and just how do you defend these guys?
Yeah, Talia's played a lot of football. He makes a lot of plays. They have weapons on offense. You saw that last year and what they did. So we got to do a good job of recognizing how they're trying to attack us. Have a great week of practice. Ultimately, it comes down to winning the game up front. But our secondary is going to get challenged this week.
You get pressure on him?
Yeah, we need to get pressure on him. Anytime you're trying to disrupt the passing game, that's a big part of the equation.
Clay Hall, WSYX.
I don't know, did you watch some football this weekend? I'm just wondering, is the Big Ten the best football league in the country?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's great football in the Big Ten. I think there's some really good teams. I watched some of it this weekend. But, yeah, I mean, it's, I think the product on the field right now is as good as it's ever been.
3 of the top 6 teams,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
Right behind him, Adam King, WBNS.
You said week 1 you've got to learn to be okay with winning on defense. You guys give up 14 against Notre Dame. The defense is one of the best in the country right now. Have you noticed a different feel from them walking around the Woody? I mean, is there a different level of confidence than since you've been here?
Yeah, I think so. I think it started in the off season, though. It's hard to talk about that when nobody else sees it, but when you see it every day in practice, there's just a confidence that builds over time. When good's going against good, you know that if you can score on our defense, or if our defense can stop our offense, on both sides, you're going against really good people, and that builds confidence within the building. But now you're starting to see it on the field.
Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
Statistically, Maryland's defense has been really strong. What stands out about that unit?
Sound, strong up front, athletic in the back end. They've replaced some really good DBs last year with more good DBs. I think the safeties are playing well. Corners are excellent. Linebackers are more experienced this year, playing faster. He's recruited some guys up front. So, they're very sound. They don't give up a lot of big plays and create turnovers.
Right in front of him, Whitney Hardy, WCMH.
Right on the other side of the ball, the offensive line's only given 3 sacks this year, and Talia is just playing out of his mind. So how important is it to try to get pressure on him, to try to prevent those explosive plays that Loxley has made it clear that's what they want to do?
Yeah, and he does a great job and has done a great job. So it's a big challenge to our defense to do that. Challenge to our D-line. We're always trying to get a pass rush. We're always trying to avoid big plays. That's not new, but to your point, it is a challenge because that's something they do very well.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, you've mentioned at times that your team's bracketing Marvin in coverage. How much more frequently is that happening this year versus last year, trying to get some kind of better perspective on that?
Yeah, I think that there's times where that's happening, and but you can't do that all the time either. But they definitely know where he is, and typically, they'll put a couple guys to his side or whatever that is, and it's based on the type of scheme that we're playing. But everybody knows where he is on the field for sure.
Do you expect teams to continue to do that throughout the season, considering the way Mecca's played this year? It would seem teams might be more honest, but that seems to be the way it keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, when we get that style of defense, we have to make sure that we're creating as many explosive plays in the other areas and attacking the defense where the coverage isn't. And I think to your point, you're talking about bracket coverage in particular. You got to find the one-on-ones, and we got to win the one-on-ones in those situations. But then there's also things on first and second down that you might see, and whether it's running the ball or finding a matchup at another position. The more we do that, the more pressure it takes off Marvin.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, you talked at different points the last couple of months about not putting too much on Kyle as a first-year starter. Do you feel like you guys are past that point now that you've seen him in a big-time environment and winning a game like that? Do you think you're past the point of we can't put too much on him? Has he reached that level?
I think we took a step in the right direction, but I think we're still building, and we're still growing, and we're still a work in progress.
In that same vein, do you think that, I know that you guys had the 61-yard run from Travion to score a touchdown, but do you think you need a little bit more right now in the running game other than that one run? you weren't great per carry.
Yeah, I mean, we always want more in a run game, always. But like I say, all the runs count, so you can say, well, you can take out a couple runs, but that run count. So that was a big one. But we certainly want to be more efficient in the run game.
Right next door, Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Brian, a month into this year, I mean, this season, have you seen, is the growth of the offensive line at the pace you expected it would be at in preseason?
Always want them to be better. I mean, there has been progress made. We've seen that for sure. But again, we're challenging everybody on our team, coaches, players, everybody's got to get better. And if we, going to win, this weekend, start with this weekend against Maryland, we all have to play better. We have to coach better across the board. I think I've said this to you guys before. Like, you have to upgrade every week, and this needs to be Ohio State 5.0. It can't be the same team that was there last week or 2 weeks ago. I mean, that game is long gone. We got to get better this week. So the offensive line is no different.
Andrew Gillis, Cleveland.com.
Brian, you've got quarterbacks kind of all over the roster from all over the country. Is there a difference that you've seen from when quarterbacks enter the program and maybe even today, stylistically, philosophically, how they approach the game when they enter as freshmen?
Yeah, very different. Everybody's personality is extremely different. Even like the guys in our room right now, the 4 guys we have, there's all completely different people, all from different parts of the country. All have a different personality, but we pretty much coach them all the same.
Right in front of him, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
When you had a chance to evaluate where your team's at during the bye week, I guess just curious what your thoughts are about where they are, and do you hope to be further along? Are you comfortable with where they are right now?
We're 4-0, but there's all kinds of areas that we want to improve on. You can imagine that. We got to get better, and that has to do with practice and getting on the field and doing it. So we want to be more efficient and execute better on all 3 phases, and we got to continue to upgrade. So the goal is to be 4-0. We're 4-0, so that's good, but there's still a lot of areas of improvement.
I'm just curious about the bye week, the timing of it. I know there's a lot of different reasons why a bye week may fall in a good spot or a bad spot. Just your feelings on where this bye week fell with the coming off the Notre Dame. When would you have liked to carry that momentum in, or is it good to be able to come up for grabs?
Both, yeah. We'll see after Saturday, after the game, and get a feel for what that was and how we did. There's parts of me that like a little bit of a mental break and a physical break, but there's part of me that wants to just keep playing and continue to build the momentum. But we'll get an idea on Saturday how we've come out of this.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Ryan, with averaging fewer possessions in the clock and all that stuff, does that affect the redshirt management process? I know you're only 4 games in, but is that a new wrinkle this year you have to think about when managing this roster?
Yeah, I mean, the number of plays are down, so that is something that we consider. But the rule hasn't changed, so it's still the 4 games, and I get that printout every week, and we identify the guys that we'll be playing in that 5th game. But we still have guys who have played 2, 3. We do have a few that have read at 4, so you got to kind of make that decision. But we take all that into consideration.
Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, this is the first opportunity we've had to ask you about post-game comments, reaction to it. 2 things. One, what have you received? What have you heard? I think players loved it, recruits probably. And 2, was the Lou Holtz thing sort of just a flashpoint for frustration that build up? Or I'll just let you speak to those.
Yeah, I don't really want to get into much of that today, just because all the focus is on Maryland. But a couple things. One, I'm very proud of the fact that we're 2-0 against Notre Dame in the last 2 years. I'm proud of the way our team played. I'm proud of the grit that they showed. It was an emotional game. And I can tell you that the response that I've got from Buckeye Nation, people around Columbus, our team, has been remarkable. They just love the passion our team played with on Saturday night.
Jeremy Birmingham, Rivals, the podcast.
Ryan, first, did the Big Ten apologize for anything in the last week?
No comment.
On the recruiting front, the world is obviously different with NIL, transfer portal, and all that stuff. Have you guys seen as a coaching staff maybe a shift in the power dynamics in recruiting kids and their high school coaches maybe having different leverage or how they operate? And if so, how do you guys as a staff approach that, like when you have a week like last week when you're on the road?
Yeah, I think that NIL certainly has had an impact. I think if anybody says it hasn't, then that's not accurate. yeah, it definitely has had an impact, and there have been maybe some swings in that area for sure. But that's not going to change what we're doing here. We feel great about the opportunity our players have, but also what it means to be a Buckeye, and we're going to continue to talk about that, and we want to always find the right fit here.
You spent the last month and a half not really having like the home recruiting weekends that we're used to, sort of ramping up now with this weekend and then Penn State. Have you guys adjusted your approach to those at all, or is it pretty much standard?
When we went to the spring visits, as you know, the official visits now really take place in the spring, where in the past maybe some had been sprinkled in throughout the season. So you don't see as many official visits during the fall. There's a couple mixed in. We've had a couple, but in terms of unofficial visitors, I think you're going to start to see that ramp up, as we get into the meat of the season.
Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
I think the longest touchdown you guys have allowed so far is 2 yards, something like that. Obviously, that was a sticking point last year for you, giving up the explosive touchdowns. So how much was there a collaborative effort with you and Jim in the offseason as to how best to address that? Was it something you just tasked him with, like, hey, it's time to reevaluate what's going on? How did you guys approach that?
I mean, we talk constantly about the pluses and the minuses, and when you look back on a season, the easy thing to do is overreact. We got to make sure that we're doing what's right for this group. It's a different group than we had last year. Figuring out as the season goes on, how do we want this to look at the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, the end of the season, because that's very, very different. But I think, there's bigger challenges ahead. First 4 games in the books, you've seen some improvement there. But we know in all areas, including on defense, we've got to continue to grow and get better. And again, the encouraging thing is you watch the film, there's plenty of areas Jim will tell you that we can get better at.
Besides the end result, like not giving up those explosive touchdowns, what do you like about, he says he's blitzing less than he ever has before. So what do you like about what you're seeing from how this defense plays?
Yeah, I mean, Jim loves to blitz, and he will. He's always going to be aggressive. We're not going to be bend but don't break. But at the same time, when the front 4 can get can affect the line of scrimmage and get a pass rush, then certainly takes pressure off of the blitzing. But I mean, I know he's got a whole bunch of blitzes lined up down the road for when the right time comes in. He's got a great defensive mind, and finding that balance is critical. But I think that we are using our hands a little better. Our pad level's getting better. Still can improve in all areas. We can still get our hands on more and more throws, run to the ball, create turnovers. There's a whole laundry list of things. But to this point, we have improved in certain areas.
Steve Hellwagon, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, back on the run game, the touchdown you had, what was special about that play? Was that something different that maybe you hadn't shown, or was that looked like the right side of your line hit their blocks coming around, and Marvin sells out on his aspect of it, and as the phrase goes, just give him a crease and he can get it. Just what happened on that play?
Yeah, the play bounced. The defensive end came down really hard on Matt Jones, but Matt Jones stood his ground there. And when the end man line of scrimmage sets the edge that hard, he runs a risk of the ball bouncing. The ball did bounce, and once Trey found himself outside of the box, at that point there was really the safety in the corner. We've been really working hard, and Brian's been working hard with the wideouts about blocking, because that's a gain of 10 or a touchdown. Marvin made the block, put himself in there. He actually got rolled up on that play, but he put his body in front of it, and that was the block that sprung him. For Travion, I thought he did a really good job in open space. We work hard on open field running, and that safety really never got a chance to touch him. And then once he broke free, you can see what a home run hitter he is and was in that play. So, that was a huge play for us. It was just a one-play drive.
I know you don't like this, but let's take that one out. You had 64 yards on the other 24 carries, the other 24 attempts. What can you do to even that out? What did you work on to make it a little bit more consistent and get it 4 or 5 yards a carry?
Yeah, those are all the areas that we're watching to see. What is it? Is it the scheme? Is it the running backs? Is it the offensive line? How are we fitting it? And just like any time you're not hitting the run game, it's like, ooh, one play here, one play there, one block here, one block there. Now, as we all know, you got to give the run game a little time to take effect. And then when it does, you start to wear teams down. You can start to, those runs of 3 and 4 turn into 5, 6, 7, and then it can turn into explosive plays. We've got to start faster, and we got to be more efficient in making those runs early on, 4, 5s, and 6s. That's the challenge, because we're not getting 75, 80 plays like we used to, and that matters. So we got to be better, especially in the first quarter.
Far left, Jared Smalley, WCMH.
Hi, Ryan. Back to pass rush. It's one of those double-edged sword things. Everybody says, hey, you got to play your best guys. And you play your best guys, and you go to the end of the game, you let them Jack and JT play at every snap. And it's a long season, and you worry about those kind of things too. How critical is it for you to not only establish your rush, but to get depth with your rush and get those guys cycled in a bit more and take the workload down a bit?
Yeah. I think, those guys are becoming, warriors. That and we talked about this going into the season, that they're going to have to they're going to carry the water up front. And that means taking on the majority of the body of work up there. Now, the more we can get guys in there, the better off we're going to be in the long run. But, I was proud of how many reps they played. And, it showed up, though, because even in that last play, even though JT's in the whole game, you say, well, he's been playing a lot of football. He made 2 giant plays in that game. And that was big. That was big for not only just, our team, but just for him and the confidence that I can handle this many snaps in a game. But to your point, the more depth we can play with, the fresher we can be. There's a fine line there.
Bill Landis, Rivals, the podcast, or did I already call you?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Doug Maurice.
Ryan, you said the defense isn't going to be bend, don't break. Why not?
Well, because we always want to be aggressive. We're a style of defense that always wants to be aggressive, but at the same time, we don't want to give up explosive plays. So that's the give and take of it all. But we are. There's times where, if they get a first down, we're okay. We'll make them drive the entire field, but that mentality is not what we want on defense. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to get in your face. We're going to get after you, but also not give up big plays.
You have a lot of things as a head coach to consider. There's a lot. College football is a huge sport, and there's a lot of people talking and writing about it all the time. How does a head coach consider when to respond to something, when to say something on behalf of a team, when to let something go and not get involved? Because I would imagine, there's 100 things that you could comment on, and head coaches don't do that. What's that discussion like for a head coach to figure out when to say something, when not?
You have to execute a lot of patience. You have to bite your tongue a lot. That's part of the job. But sometimes when, your team, reaches a certain point, sometimes, you got to do what's right for the guys on your team. And, finding that balance is the art of being a coach. But yeah, to your point, there's a lot of times where you just have to, take the high road, and that's going to be done the majority of the time. But I also know that, it's Ohio against the world, and that's part of the job. Our guys also know that, there's certain time where, you got to stand up for what you believe in. And, we're focused on Maryland, so that's behind us. But I also think there was a lesson learned for our team.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Not to belabor the pass rush, but I'll belabor the pass rush. You have 5 sacks. I know sacks are not everything, but are you content with the amount of pressure, the disruption that the pass rush is causing, especially with Talia this week? That's going to be crucial. Just kind of what's the status of the pass rush?
Yeah, I thought we went against 2 really good tackles a couple weeks ago. Watching that and evaluating that, I thought there was some good pass rushes in there, and we were close. I think this week gives us an opportunity again to see where that goes. There's times where there's run stunts going on that maybe it's not as much of a pass rush, and but our goal when the quarterback's dropping back, obviously it is to pressure, hurry, and obviously sack them.
silly little question. At the end of the Notre Dame game, you kicked the extra point. Some people said, should have just taken a knee on that. Have you thought about that?
Yeah. If there was an untimed down, I was going to take a knee, but with 1 second, I just felt like, you want to kick the extra point. Just who knows what could possibly happen, right? You just never know. With the kick, I don't know. I felt like it was the right thing to do with time on the clock, just to kick the extra point. But I guess you could come up with a crazy scenario where there was a kickoff and.
They turned an extra point for 2 points.
No, I know. And I felt like at that point, if we can't kick the extra point, we don't deserve to win. But I felt like, with 1 second on the clock, the right thing to do is to kick it. But I'm sure there could be an argument either way.
And we'll wrap up with Tim May on 3.
Close enough. Thanks, Jerry. Just a real quick follow-up. Did you get A's in trigonometry?
No.
Okay.
B+.
Number 2, do you have Peacock?
Yes.
Okay. You understand there's a stir going on out there, right?
Actually, no, Paramount I think I have. I don't think I have
Paramount.
Peacock, yeah.
You'll get Peacock, yeah.
Because of Yellowstone, I had to get it for Yellowstone, I think. This
Yeah.
summer, yeah.
I got it on Peacock, so there you go. Joey Bosa in 2014, Ohio State went to double overtime game at Penn State, hard fought game, and he said right after that game that team he felt that team take a step, meaning from a confidence standpoint, competitive standpoint, and stuff. Have you sensed that around the building that this team has a different, kicking its step, so to speak, coming out of a game like that?
Yeah, I think so. I do. But that's going to show itself on Saturday against Maryland. But yeah, I think coming off that field and I do. That's why it's kind of, like I was saying before, it's good to get some rest. Kind of wanted to keep that momentum going. But yeah, I think a lot of guys gained a lot of confidence coming out of that game.
And one other thing, how much does it help that y'all were in a dogfight, turtle fight, whatever you want to call it, last year with this team coming in to get their attention about this team?
Yeah, I mean, guys better recognize it because that's exactly what happened. It went all the way down to the last play, and they know how good this team is and how many weapons they have. And if we're not executing very well, it's going to go all the way down to the fourth quarter. So, this team definitely has our team's attention.
Thanks, Coach. Thank you very much.